On today's show, the LA Clippers dropped the first of a back-to-back against the Indiana Pacers. Why have the Pacers had so much success against the Clippers and swept us in the regular season? And does their bad matchup with us say something bigger about this team? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA and been a Clipper fan for 20 years, been covering the Clippers for 5 years on my own LA-centric YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, and Locked On Clippers here for 3 years. Make sure you subscribe to all the YouTube channels, and you can listen to this wherever you get your podcast. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And Locked On Clippers also has a newsletter. LockedOnDaily.com is where you can sign up for it. I write it, so it'd be really appreciated for today's episode, and I want to apologize greatly for the timing of this. I'm so sorry about these constant excuses I'm making, so I'm not even going to go into why, but let's just say I had some really weird issues with my new computer, and I was invited weeks ago to hang out with some of my friends from college, and I didn't get to watch the game live, and I didn't get to watch it later, and we cut our cable because our house burned down, so I don't have access to FanDuel Sports Network, so I've been watching games on a different website with replays, and sometimes it can be inconsistent with uploading, but I assure you I'll try my best to not let it happen again. It's also the timing of when the girl goes to sleep that I'm living with, so I think I am going to, and I keep saying I'm going to go to my grandma's, but I don't know when my grandma's going to sleep these days. It's a mess, okay? I'm just trying my best, and I apologize for this. I really do. But let's talk about it, right? We played against another pick-and-pop team with a pick-and-pop center, and we got burned, so I'm going to talk about that and why that gives us problems. Then secondly, I want to talk about our defense because it was non-existent against the Pacers, and we're going to have to be better against Detroit today. And by the time you listen to this, we probably have already played them. So I'm going to try to make it a both thing episode, and you'll also have an episode talking about the Detroit game, and I'll also be live on Dime Dropper on Tuesday night or on Monday night to talk about both games. But then the final segment, I'm going to be talking about the trouble that we are potentially in. Now, we were wondering going into the game, is Kawhi Leonard going to play in the first of a back-to-back or the second? Well, it turns out he will be playing in neither. So he didn't play because of a foot injury. And I say that because when I heard it yesterday, I'm like, okay, so he's going to play against Detroit. No big deal. But he's missing the game with a foot injury. Now, I know he was grimacing a little bit after that and one against the Milwaukee Bucks. Is that what happened? Did he aggravate something? Because here we go again, if that's the case. And then with Norman Powell, I'm honestly even more concerned about that because not only was he out and they were saying it was a knee injury, they're now saying that he's out for this game as well, and it's officially diagnosed as tendinopathy now. Left patellar tendinopathy, which the only thing I know about tendinopathy is that Kawhi has like left knee tendinopathy or left quad tendinopathy or something, or is it right quad? I don't even know. He has something. He has tendinopathy of his quad. That sounds like something that doesn't go away. So I'm a little concerned about Norm. I still think it's insane that he played in the three-point shootout. If it's this bad, he should have never even gone to San Francisco. It's wild to me what's going on. But before I talk about that, we got to talk about pick and pop. So, look, I'm not shocked that we lost to the Pacers, who are playing really good basketball right now without Kawhi and Norm. You know what I mean? I'm not surprised. But it is 2 straight losses after 3 straight wins where it felt like, okay, we're starting to build some momentum back because we lost 3 games in a row before that. So we're just kind of streaking right now. 129-111 was the final score of the game on Sunday. And it honestly just felt like they were better than us from the beginning, and we never really got back in it. And I think the initial problem started with the pick and pop threat of Miles Turner. So we seem to struggle against pick and pop bigs. Why is that, you might ask? Well, because Ivica Zubac's main defensive specialty is he's a good rim protector, a great rim protector. So we play a lot of drop coverage. So this is where I'm going to get a little technical, and I want you guys to try to follow along as best you can. I know it's hard because I don't have pictures and visuals, but in a pick and roll defensively, you have two guys defending the initial action, right? Everybody else, they might come into play at some point. But you have the guy guarding the ball handler and you have a guy guarding the screener. In this case, let's say whoever was guarding Halliburton. So Chris Dunn to begin the game. And by the way, we started with Amir, Derek Jones Jr., Chris Dunn, James, and Zoo because no Norm and no Kawhi. So then our bench was pretty thin. It was Bogey, Ben Simmons. We even played Drew Eubanks. And we barely played Nico, which I don't know what's going on there. We're playing Nico so much if he's so little. If he's dealing with an injury or whatnot, I didn't even notice him in the game. 8 minutes is crazy. I don't know what's going on, especially when we're that shorthanded. But we even gave Kobe Brown and Marjon Beauchamp some run, but I'll talk about them a little later. So let's say it's Chris Dunn defending Tyrese Halliburton and Zoo defending Miles Turner, right? So on any pick and roll, once a screen is set, if the guy cannot fully get through the screen, and usually, especially in today's NBA, they do not allow you to get over screens with contact. They don't allow you to put your arm, they have an arm bar, and so that makes it hard. So essentially on every screen that's being set today, even sometimes when there's not even real screens being set, when they're ghost screening it or whatever, players are coming out of that screen with an offensive advantage, right? So that forces the second defender, whoever's guarding the screener, to have to step up and do something. Drop coverage is when the big man drops and just says, you know what, we're not going to give you a layup line. We're going to make you shoot a shot in the in-between game. And by the time you get to whatever shot you want to, our point of attack guy has gotten back in the rear view to contest or something. You know what I'm saying? CP3, one of the best in history at exploiting drop coverage, as we saw for so many years, coming off that screen to his right for that right elbow jumper when teams were in drop. It was just money. So with drop, you have to account for two things with Indiana. Tyrese Halliburton coming off a screen for three, wide open. But because our point of attack defense is good, and it wasn't great on Sunday, but it's better than most teams, obviously second best defensive rating in the league, we do a pretty good job of taking away that initial look. But if Zoo's going to drop, oh, by the way, we're now third in defensive rating because we slipped a little bit the last. I saw that we were allowing the highest 3-point percentage, like 40% from three the last 10 games. And I think a lot of that has to do with more crazy shooting nights. But I do think there is a level of, we've played some teams with pick and pop bigs. And also like that Laker game where they were just lights out and they played 5 out. I think teams are starting to see the blueprint with the Clippers a little bit. And that is that if you play a 5-out team or a pick and pop team, then the advantage that they've had defensively, besides point of attack, which is Zubats, has been bailing us out constantly on defense, can be exploited to a degree. And that's what I think teams are starting to realize about us. But the Pacers are just going to play this way regardless, right? They've got Miles Turner and Thomas Bryant as their centers. So they're going to pick and pop, and they're going to space the floor and play fast. And that's one thing I've noticed about Indiana, both games that we've played them, is that they just look faster and bigger than us. We are fairly small in the front court. I mean, they have Aaron Nesmith, Siakam, these guys, Benedict Mathurin, these guys are bigger, strong wings. We have some athletic wings, but we have the guys like, Chris Dunn is one of our more athletic players, but he's like 6'3". Derek Jones Jr. is a freak, but he's one guy and he's pretty thin and he's not as tall as he actually looks. So my thing is this. We're the third best defensive rating in the league, regardless of all of this stuff. But there is a flaw in our defense with the pick and pop. So what I was saying was, if Zoo is dropping, we are leaving Miles Turner wide open for three. And he started out by hitting a couple of threes. We did the same thing with Brook Lopez. So you might be wondering, how can you counter that? What defensive adjustments can you make? Well, what you could do is we could put Zubats on their worst three-point shooter, which, let me take a look right now at Indiana's starters from three. It would either be, I guess, Andrew Nembhard or Aaron Nesmith, I would think. So let's see. Aaron Nesmith shooting 39% and Andrew Nembhard shooting 31%. So to put Zoo on Andrew Nembhard would be one adjustment, and you have Derek Jones Jr. on Miles Turner. So then when they set that pick and pop, Derek Jones Jr. can then switch onto Tyrese Halliburton, and then Chris Dunn. But see, then Chris Dunn is guarding Miles Turner, and now you have a mismatch. So that's what makes this difficult, right? That's what makes it hard for coaching staffs. But I honestly think what we should have done is just, and it's a lot of ground to cover, but it's the best thing you could do, is we have whoever's guarding Andrew Nembhard just quick rotation onto Miles Turner and then make them swing the ball. And then we're scrambling. That's the best way I think that we can defend it. I don't know, because when Miles Turner gets aggressive in the post, I don't think he has the best post game, but I've seen him do some things over the years. Sometimes when I watch Miles Turner, I think, how is this guy not a star? If he can post up and he can pick and pop and he's a rim protector and he's athletic, why has he never been an all-star? But I guess, you only know that if you watch him every game. So if there's any Pacers fans commenting on this or watching this, I would love to see why. But I think it's partially because he's not as aggressive on a one-on-one basis. But he's fantastic as a pick and pop guy. And that's why a lot of teams he's been like the number one trade target for many years. And then Indiana obviously inked him to that long-term deal. But yeah, there's an issue with us pick and pop wise. And I thought there was a lack of adjustments from our coaching staff. We were conceding that shot for a while. And I'm just like, that's a good look for him. So we got to rotate. And I think because the switch everything, you don't want Chris Dunn switching on a Miles Turner. You don't. So maybe Derrick Jones Jr. guarding Halliburton. And then you have Harden guarding Miles Turner, because Harden is a strong post defender. So then we can switch that. But then Harden's on Halliburton. So there's just some issues there, right? There's some real issues there. So coming up, going to talk more about our defensive problems in this game and why I was so disappointed with that coming up. I got to tell you a little something about DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 24-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Damn, I'm excited. All right, come on, SGA. Can you give us some Clipper fans some love? Let me tell you something about DoorDash, honestly. I have been ordering DoorDash way too much since my house burned down. But it comes in handy late at nights, when you got it locked on to do and you got to watch a game and you don't want to go out and get some fast food or something late at night. It saves me time just staying home, have it delivered right to my door. Sign up for DoorDash, sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day. Up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. All right, so let's talk more about this 129 to 111 loss to the Indiana Pacers in Indiana. They were up 31-24 early, and besides the pick and pop thing, I thought one thing that was very frustrating was we got beaten up on the offense, on the glass. Like, they had 8 offensive rebounds in the game, but that doesn't really tell a full story, because there was 2 times that Chris Dunn, specifically Chris Dunn, did not box out. His guy got a rebound, and they scored 6 points off of it. You know what the score was at the end of the first quarter? 31-24. And we were bricking tons of good looks to begin the game. Derrick Jones Jr., Chris Dunn, Amir Coffey, all of them. Only Harden was scoring, and a little bit of Zoo. But we allowed offensive rebounds. Now we're not down by 7 at the end of the first quarter as opposed to 1. And it just got worse from there. Their bench came in. TJ McConnell was cooking us in isolation, just driving by dudes. And we were down, and we got outscored 35-31 in the second quarter. We were down 66-55 at half. But I just thought, besides the 5-out thing and the pick and pop thing, we did not take enough pride staying in front of the ball. Chris Dunn, for how great of a defender he's been this season, and I think he should be an all-defensive team guy, incredibly lazy, going through the motions, getting beat way too easily. Derrick Jones Jr., not the best either. Ben Simmons, I mean, I thought off the ball he was awesome defensively. On the ball, his screen navigation, he just stands up straight and doesn't like move and just leans one side too early. It's been really bad watching his screen navigation, honestly. I've been disappointed with that. And then Bogdanovich, he has good hands, but he's not the best at staying in front of the ball against like perimeter guys. So I think Bogdanovich, I'm gonna be honest, I think Bogdanovich instead of KPJ is a defensive downgrade. I'm not gonna lie. I like Bogey better. I think he's gonna be better long term and he's got playoff experience, but it is a defensive downgrade. And I think one of the things that really helps us is being better offensively because we get to set our defense. We're not as good nearly in transition defensively as we are in the half court. And I think a big reason why is because sometimes Zoo doesn't want to come out to defend guys when it just so happens that we're matched up in transition and he has to guard the ball and they're pulling up from three and he's sitting by the rim. You got to get out. So our transition defense is nowhere near our half court defense from the eye test. And I think that's the case for most teams because you get to set your defense. And Indiana loves pushing the pace. Thankfully, they're an Eastern Conference team and we don't have to play them anymore. But it really shows there's a blueprint to beating the Clippers. Play fast. If you can stop their offense, get out and run, their half-court defense isn't as good, and then play with the pick-and-pop fives, and their half-court defense isn't as good. I think that's a lot of what it takes to beat us. And then the other thing that's a problem is we're not scoring at all. So and by the way, a lot of good shots were generated. A lot. Chris Dunn and Derrick Jones Jr.'s lack of shots, which we feared before the season, and we got away with it for so long, it's starting to be a little bit of a problem. Do you know what they were combined from three? 0 for 10. How about 0 for 5 for each of them? So that was no good. And if you're wondering, why does Amir Coffey keep getting so many minutes? He's not as good as Ty Lue seems to think. I agree, guys. Amir Coffey is a solid backup, and I think he's been good in his role this season. Some might disagree. I think that's recency bias and being emotional, even though I'm one to get emotional. Not really as much about this anymore. I can't lie to you, fellas. I wait for the end of the season to release my emotions completely. But I think just I try to keep things in perspective over the course of a season now. And Amir Coffey, I think overall, if you had shown his numbers, shown our record to me, given his minutes before the season, and you said, does this look like a good season? I'll be like, hell yeah. He's averaging double-figure points and shooting like 40% from three on the season. So I'm not going to complain because he falls asleep off the ball defensively and commits stupid fouls sometimes, which he does. But to me, Ty Lue's overplaying him for the same reason he used to overplay Marcus Morris. And I'm not saying that it's anywhere near as bad as it was when my first season as host of this show with the Marcus Morris thing. But I'll say this. We clearly know that Ty has an offensive lens, right? I think he's a better offensive coach than he is defensive. He wants some shooting out there because Derrick Jones Jr. hasn't shot as well the last couple of months. And what's his name? Chris Dunn absolutely is just not a very good shooter. He's not a great offensive player in the NBA. That's just a fact. Derrick Jones, by the way, is now down to 35% from three. So he's only 1% higher than last year where he was 34.3%. So now he's no longer, in my opinion, shooting well from three. He's shooting decently from three. I hope his average goes back up to 36 because if it only goes down, we're going to have real spacing issues, especially with Chris Dunn and Derrick Jones Jr. on the floor. And that has not gotten better with Ben Simmons because Ben Simmons, he doesn't even look at the basket till he gets to layup range. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't. And I like how he's always active offensively. Like he's trying to set a screen. He's trying to push the pace. He's trying to find somebody. I like that. But man, when he gets the ball on a kick out and he's driving, you just know he's not going to shoot. And it's just predictable. At least with Westbrook, he makes you think he's going to score. But it's like, what do you want more? Do you want a guy that's aggressive and is going to miss a lot of shots like Westbrook, or someone who's not even going to look at the basket like Ben Simmons? I think there's less bad things that can happen with the Ben Simmons, but there's way more good things that can happen when Russ is like playing well. I'm not comparing Russ to Ben Simmons, by the way. I just think there's some similarities in the sense that offensively, outside of the paint, they're not reliable. Now, Russ, he has more skill, obviously, and he's a way better basketball player. It's not even close because a lot of it's mental. Ben Simmons doesn't have 1 ounce of the confidence of a Russell Westbrook. But it just reminds me of the conversation. When I was thinking about what I was going to say for this episode, I was like, oh, man, well, Ben Simmons, I like that he attacks the open space instead of passing up shots that he's going to brick. But again, that reminded me of when we used to have Westbrook. But Westbrook's doing great with the Nuggets. He's a way better player than Ben Simmons, so I'm not trying to go there if any Russ fans are still hanging around listening to this show. But there's some similarities in that lack of spacing. The only thing is we have more non-shooters now, honestly. Chris Dunn, Derek Jones. I think my point is we took a lack of pride defensively on Sunday. We did not stay in front of the ball. We didn't even try to. We didn't show anything. And I think a lot of it is great offense. I do. But when we did sometimes switch that pick and roll, like the Miles Turner pick and pop, which we tried, it was always like a mismatch on the boards or something. Or Siakam had a mismatch. Like it was just causing a lot of issues. And we're supposed to be better than this defensively. And Norman Powell and Kawhi shouldn't make that much of a difference on that end. But I thought we were just, if Chris Dunn and Derek Jones Jr. aren't playing great defense, and if Ivica Zubac isn't playing great defense, then we're not going to have a good defensive game. If James Harden I think is playing better defense than those guys, then we're not going to have a bad game or a good game. And I thought James, in isolation, one-on-one, did a pretty decent job at times. So that's the thing, right? I see our numbers defensively, and now we're third in defensive rating. So you're seeing a dip, but I don't, and maybe this is because I've been so frazzled over the last 2 months, or has it really been 2? Yeah, it's almost been 2 months. And, I've just been mentally all over the place. And I binge watched a bunch of Clipper games instead of watching them normally because of everything that's happened. But I don't see many consistent patterns in our defensive drop, except for that we're just playing teams that are knocking down threes, but they are starting to go more if teams with pick and pop bigs are going to cause us some issues. But I think a lot of it's also working Kawhi back into the things, our offense not being great at times. Transition defense could be better, but I don't see any crazy patterns. I think we got to go back to just taking a little bit more pride. And it starts with our best guys. Chris Dunn, Derek Jones Jr. I think it's also difficult when each one gets subbed out of the starting lineup. I don't think that's easy either. So it's something to take. Coming up, though, I'm going to talk about why I'm a little fearful of these next few games and also some more general takeaways from the game, including some of the box score. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right. So 129 to 111. Not the best game from our boys. We got outscored in the third quarter, 35 to 28. And you know what? I'm going to say it because I feel like people are probably going to say that I'm going easy, so I'm going to. The last couple of games have not been great from Ty and the coaching staff. I'm not just going to put it all on Ty because there's a coaching staff there. How do we not try to do a little bit more about that pick and pop with Miles Turner? It just felt like it was adjustment-wise, we were so stagnant. And by the way, when we're allowing over 100 points after 3 quarters, I mean, the offense is a contributing factor to that because scoring the ball lets you set your defense. But if we are allowing over 100 points through 3 quarters and we're known as a defensive team and we're missing Norman Powell and Kawhi Leonard, there's only one way we're going to be able to win that game, and that's with our defense. And if that's non-existent, then just forget about it. Because what happened was James Harden, it felt like every shot he missed, and he missed 8 and made 9, so he was 9 for 17 and 6 for 13 from 3, 7 for 9 from the foul line, 31 points, 7 rebounds, and 11 assists to go along with 3 steals and 2 blocks, but he did turn the ball over 5 times. Overall, in 35 minutes, I thought James was really good. I mean, he's by far our best player. I don't know what it is about him in Indiana since he's been a Clipper, but he loves it there. But every time he missed, it felt like, oh my God, damn it, no one else can make shots. So every time he misses, it feels huge. So that's when you know you're just not getting enough from other guys. And at one point in the first half, it was 21 to 3 in bench points. I know Ben Simmons is not going to come in and score points for us, but he would hopefully create some good shots for us. I don't know. It just wasn't working out too well. We weren't making shots, quite frankly. And Ty went small in the beginning of the third quarter. He's like, let's try something different, switch everything. And when, Chris Dunn, Derek Jones, these guys could not make open shots. So there's not much you can say. And then there's another conversation about like, okay, when the three ball's not falling, do you have anything else? Well, we try to give it a zoo. If teams really want, they can double that and force us to kick it out. Right. And I thought we did get some good stuff from Zoo in this game in terms of like throwing it to him. 22 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists on 8 for 11 shooting, 6 for 6 on the foul line. I think we should try again, even more. But the thing is, if they double and force you to shoot and you brick, then what are you going to do? Right. It's not like Zubats is a very good post player, but he's not like Kareem or Shaq where like a double can come and he can still turn and shoot over it. Like that's not happening. You know what I mean? So we wanted to make the play. We wanted to find an open guy. The thing is, I always wondered this about the modern NBA because when teams go cold from three and they have bad 3-point shooters, they just still end up shooting the three until they make it because the analytics and just like, why not? But like, before the 3-point boom, and I actually think this is a good thing the modern NBA has done is all the catch and shoot long twos or catch and shoot 18 footers, they've made those threes because why not? It's a 1 or 2 steps back. You get an extra point for it, right? And it spaces out the defense even more, stretches the defense even more. But I wonder for guys like a Chris Dunn or Derek, would they be more comfortable shooting catch and shoot from 18 feet? While the closeout's going to be closer. If you can still get a good look, semi-open, is it going to be better for you? Can DeRozan be a better spacer if he's catching and shooting from 18 as opposed to from 20, whatever, behind the three? I wonder, but teams just won't do it because, catch and shoot twos don't quite make sense for the way the game is played. But that's why I think we've reduced this so much to like a math game as opposed to a feel game in basketball. So it's just something I wonder. And to be honest with you, if I had to just make a guess, I don't think Chris Dunn or Derek Jones Jr. are just good shooters, period, for the NBA level. I just don't. Well, who knows? I don't think they are, but who knows? Now, this is why I say, well, let's read some box score stats, though. Derek Jones, 6 points on 3 for 9 shooting and 0 for 5 from 3. Chris Dunn, 4 points, 5 rebounds on 2 for 7 shooting and 0 for 5 from 3. Amir Coffey, 14 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist on 4 for 9 shooting and 1 for 4 from 3. And then I already talked about Zoo, who, by the way, 6 for 6 on the foul line. If there's one good takeaway, he's starting to get better with his free throws again, which is nice. Bogey shot really poorly. Really poorly. And he was 4 for 13 from the field, 1 for 8 from 3. So it's kind of like, I don't know what's going on with his shot, picking up where he left off in Atlanta. I like what he's doing, but he's got to be better. By the way, we put in Marjon Beauchamp and Kobe Brown later in like the second half before it got to garbage time. And they looked fairly athletic. Like it looked like with Marjon, like he was committing some bad fouls, like some young player mistakes, but I saw what we were trying to do was like go a little more athletic. Kobe Brown, Marjon, Ben Simmons lineup. And honestly, we kind of got back in it. 14-point game, 5 minutes left. Today's NBA, you never know. But we pulled hard now. We're like, all right, well, let's wait for the Pistons game tomorrow. But I just think Ty Lue sometimes pulls the plug too early for me. But I get it. We're playing against the Pistons, which brings me to, by the way, this is what we shot from three. 25%, 10 for 40. Disgusting. 45% from the field. So we actually shot pretty well from two because, we shot 45% from the field, which isn't that bad. But we got out-rebounded. They out-assisted us. They shot 55% from the field, 33 from three. But I think a lot of that was the fourth quarter they were starting to brick. And they shot 93% from the foul line on 27 attempts. We shot 76% from the foul line on 25 attempts. 2 misses by Marjon Beauchamp, 1 from Ben Simmons, 1 from Bogey, 1 from Amir, 2 from Harden. So, I don't know. This Pistons game is going to be big. They're playing really well, and the bad news is that Norm and Kawhi are out again, which makes me think, like, we're in some trouble, guys. Because we don't know with them, and we know we're not going to find out more info with Kawhi. And if Norm is seriously injured, I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say. Like, the Kawhi experience, it doesn't allow for sustainability in any sort of way. I just think, like, we're in such a weird position, and I don't want to talk about it anymore in terms of like the long term because we have a game on Tuesday and we're going to focus on that. But it's very hard to win in this way. Even the way we're trying to do is just get to the playoffs. It's very hard to win in this way because Your best player is the biggest question mark with the entire team. I think it's funny how everyone's trying to scapegoat Amir Coffey now that Terrence is gone. New homegrown guy. Let's hate on him because he's okay. You know what? He is just okay for an NBA player. He's been good for us this year. He's been, in my opinion, at least, he's had, it's funny because you talk to one person, they think Amir Coffey is so great, and you talk to another person, they think Amir Coffey's garbage. So that means that the answer is somewhere in the middle. And I think I'm somewhat on the right path here. I think most people that are like Clipper, I usually go with die-hard Clipper fans, and I guess Clipper media, I don't think would be as harsh, but you never know on these social media accounts who is behind them, where they live, and all that. Like, it's different if you don't care about the homegrown aspect because you're not here. You know what I'm saying? But I've shook Amir Coffey's hand. Like, I'm not going to go out there and trash him after a couple bad games. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if you're blaming a guy that's making however much Amir Coffey's making, averaging 10 points on 40% from three because he gets lost off the ball and commits stupid fouls, and not the guy that has never been healthy for us since we got him, then you're completely you're deflecting because you don't want to address the actual problem. All right, I've gone too long. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper and LA sports content. Look, I know his body's letting him down, but I'm more mad at the organization. How can we keep buying into this and fooling fans into thinking that this is going to be something different? Every year it's the same thing. And you think we're going to win a championship this year? You think we're going to go to the conference finals the way things are looking right now? Golden State is on our tails right now with this Jimmy Butler thing. And I don't really care. I just think it's I got to watch my language. I think it's messed up to the paying Clipper fans. You know why they said they were going to keep this team together? Because they have no choice but to keep this team together, and they know that it can sell tickets. Well, guess where we are in the league in attendance? Dead last. Dead last. I hope we make the playoffs this year so we can have playoffs into it. That would be the only silver lining because these guys have worked hard, but $50 million of the salary is being taken by him. Good night. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. I'll talk to you guys after the Detroit game. I'll be live tonight as well on Dime Dropper, so we're more unfiltered. We can pick up where we left off right here. But hopefully we won against Detroit, and it'll be a great win, and I won't have anything to complain about. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers. Jesus, I went way too hard there.